What's up, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Blood on the Razor Wire TV, where we bring it to you real and we bring it to you raw. Hit that subscribe button, hit the like button, share the video. I promise it'll be a good one. As most of you know, I like to bring people on that I've been in prison with before sometimes, dudes that spent time in penitentiaries, some of them in Big Sandy, particularly because my book's about that and, kind of just goes with the flow. I'm going to bring a guy on that I spent some time with at Big Sandy, a guy that did a whole lot of time. Been in some dangerous places, maximum security prisons. But you know what? I'll let Doug introduce himself, let Doug tell you who he is, where he's from, and talk a little bit about his situation. The mic's yours, Doug.
Thank you, Chad. It's good to be with you. My name's Doug Barton. I'm from a little college town outside of Toledo, Bowling Green, Ohio. Those of you who follow college football probably know about the Bowling Green Falcons. So I'll just start it off. I came to Big Sandy roughly 2005, 2006, right around that time, straight out of state prison, and I was in a low security state prison. So when they told me about the feds, I heard the club fed stories and stuff. I thought everything was going to be great. I got to Oklahoma City. They told me I was going to Big Sandy. Some people kind of got, looked at me crazy, but it didn't faze me. I thought people were just blowing things up, and I didn't think it was real. So I get to Big Sandy, and the first thing that should have told me something was when I was going through R&D, where you go when you first get there. A CO told me, if I was you, I'd get a knife. That kind of took me off guard, but then I thought he was just joking. And then, so I go out to the compound, I get put into A1 with the North Carolina kid. And the very first night he takes me out, and my first experience was there was a native dude getting jumped by about 6 other natives, and they were trying to kill him. And so they fire this big gun, and this recording comes on, and I don't know, no one explains this stuff to you. So I'm the only one standing up at the time. So it just doesn't fade. I'm watching what's going on, and I'm not understanding that recording. It just doesn't register to me until someone says, "Hey man, you need to get down or they'll shoot you." And I'm just like, "What do you mean they'll shoot me?" And I'm like, "Yeah, they use live rounds here." So obviously I got down, but that was my first night at Big Sandy. So obviously I didn't sleep that night real well. It was a shock. I'd never seen anything what was going on the handball court. I had never seen anything like that. So I got kind of lucky. There was an old timer across from me named Gary Truitt, called himself Georgia Steel. He had been around the system for a while. He was in the old Atlanta Penitentiary before it got switched over. He was in Pollock. He came there. He had a lot of respect. He was an independent guy. He had a lot of respect, and he kind of took me under his wing. He could see that I was real green at the time, and so he kind of took me under his wing, and he made sure, he explained the gangs to me and all the different ins and outs of everything, and made sure that I didn't get, put on any dummy missions or anything like that. Obviously, I had to put in work. We all got to do it, and so I got blessed that way. So I get there, and I'm just doing what I got to do. And it's at that time, and you remember this, it was a daily occurrence. Stabbings were a daily occurrence. It wasn't just once a week or a couple times. It was every single day. You get up in the morning, and the first thing you do is go fill up your ice buckets, make sure you have batteries, make sure you have things for lockdown, because someone's getting stabbed. It's just a matter if they live or not. And it wasn't too long after I got there, a DC cat got stabbed one time in the neck in education and dropped dead right there in the when you walk into education. So that was the first.
That was the dude. That was the dude. That was the gay dude, right? Stabbed him and killed him.
Right.
And then after he killed him, they let him back on the compound. Do you remember that?
I remember it. I think his name was Spider. Yeah. I remember it vividly because that was the first. I'm like, holy crap, people are getting killed in here. I was new. It was still a shock to me. And, but I learned real quick. And the interesting thing about it is at that time, that extreme level of violence and stuff like that, it bothered me. and it didn't make me comfortable. Like you kind of feel a little sick to your stomach when it's something real extreme. You kind of feel sick to your stomach. It's not cool. I never saw stuff like that growing up, But as I moved on, I caught myself one time. I still lived in A1, and there was a GD guy and a North Carolina guy got into it. And this GD is stabbing this poor guy like 50 to 100 times. And it was all face, head, neck shots. He had him on the ground. And I caught myself. I was standing on the top rail looking down on them. And I caught myself eating a bowl of food, watching like it was just normal. And that's when I knew that, I'd went to the dark side, kind of like it didn't faze me anymore. It didn't even register to me that this was bad anymore. This is like normal, and that's when I knew I really had to get my bearings about me and, try to make it through. Cause I thought I would get to an FCI at some point, but unfortunately, for whatever reason, they just wanted to keep me there, and it didn't make sense. So it really got going when Beaumont closed.
That's when all my homeboys came there. Adam and Stevie and
Ronnie and all them show up. So you mix all those problems. Well, let's be honest now. The Boston car brings a lot of drama, and so you mix all that in with what was already going on there. So now we have this whole new dynamic. And then that was the period of Big Sandy when it was at its worst. When you were there and Stevie had everything going on, and then my homeboy Ace, who we'll talk about, that and that was when it really got out of hand. And Ace was the shot caller for the Ohio guys. Being from Ohio, I rode with him. And so when your homeboy showed up, Stevie wanted to all of us to ride together, basically. He wanted to absorb all the Ohio guys, have one big giant car, because we had a huge gang population at the time. Huge. I don't know if you remember, we had 10 armed guys, ABT, SAC, AC. We had everybody.
Remember when Bam was there?
Absolutely. I saw when the Norteño stabbed him.
Do you remember when the Norteños? So you remember the whole incident on the yard out there, and one of them white dudes didn't help out, right? There wasn't that many white dudes out there, but Bam gets into it with the Norteños, with the Northerners, right? And they're out there battling, they're stabbing each other. Tell the people about that a little bit in detail.
Okay, so someone was looking down on me that day. So I'm going outside. This happened at the rec move before Chow. There's not a lot of people out there. So I'm going out to the rec yard with my buddy. And as we're going out there, I tell him, let's go over the track. And he's like, nah, let's go over the softball field, mess around. And I'm like, no, let's go. And he's like, no, I'll go over here. So we went to the softball field. We're over there tossing softball around and stuff. And I kind of noticed there was 14 Norteños there at the time. And I kind of noticed they were all sitting on this table, just kind of sitting there, not doing anything, just watching. But I see it, but I don't really think anything of it. And I noticed that Bam and I think there was 6 white guys on the track at the time. If I remember, 6. And then all of a sudden I turn around and I see all the Norteños running across the field, and they're stabbing every white guy they see. And there was one white guy that was walking the track that didn't try to help, do anything. He just went about his business. And you would think it, normally if you're just a regular old guy, you shouldn't be made to get involved in things like that. He's not a member of the brand. He's not NLR. He's nothing. He's not a California guy. But unfortunately for him, it's mandatory. You get involved. You see other white guys getting into it with another race, you get involved. And I know that they got that guy. At that time, I think I was on B side when that happened. So
I want the
we
people,
had,
you know what I want, Doug? I want the people to understand that after that happens, the Norteños stab Bam. They stab a bunch of white dudes. They are out there fighting back. Bam's out there fighting. They start shooting, right?
yep, yep.
And
Always.
what happens is they take everyone, put them in the hole. They take the Norteños and they transfer them, but they let the white dudes out, right?
Yeah. Quick too. Bam and them got out fast. You know, they just brought a bus and shipped all the Norteños out of there, and Bam and all of them came right back on the compound. I mean, it was that week that they were back. It wasn't a few days, and they were back. And then it became a Sereno yard after that.
What happens to the white dude that was walking the track? The Norteños didn't realize he was over in the corner by himself. He doesn't help out. These guys kick his head. I'll let you tell him what happens to him.
I didn't see it, but obviously I knew about it. I knew it was going to happen, and you know, they tried to kick his head off. You know, and it shouldn't be like that, but that's just the way it is there to this day. That's the way it is. You will help. You know, whether or not you have anything to do with it or not, you're gonna help. So
you know what else I want people to know this, Doug, while they're listening, right? You just got out. You've been in jail all this time, right?
I've been out about a month. So yeah.
Where'd you come home from?
Big Sandy.
You spent your whole bid at USP Big Sandy. You've seen so many things change. So many people come there. So many people get killed there. So we're going to talk more about that. Let's keep going with, you know, after Stevie and them get there, the Norteños stab Bam. Bam gets out. Bam's got the keys to the yard, but Steve Burke shows up, right?
Yeah. Stevie shows up, and I don't know if people know who Stevie is, but he's a little bit of a legend, maybe, you know, and everyone knows who he is. So Stevie shows up. Stevie's never going to allow someone to have the yard that's a gang member. It's just not. He's not going to allow it. And he's going to fight that all the time. So it was constant chaos. Constant. I mean, every time you go outside, something was going on. And him and Ace then got into cahoots with each other. And me and Ace, even though he was a shot caller, we didn't really see eye to eye on things. He wanted to go run with you guys. He wanted all of us to absorb into the Boston car. And I didn't want to. You know, I didn't think it was necessary. I didn't want to do it. I saw how much chaos you guys were going through at the time. I just thought it was unnecessary for us to get involved in all that. And, you know, so that didn't happen. And then it wasn't that while a while longer that's when Ace and Trago and them jumped on you. I can't remember exactly how long after all that had happened, after everyone got there, but that was on the basketball court. It was 4 or 5 on 1, if I remember. And the funny thing about it was
my own homeboy, Big Frank. Frank was my partner.
Frank, Trago, Ace,
Coffee.
So the funny thing about it was, so you got all these guys, and these guys are supposedly badasses. Now, don't get me wrong, I already knew who you were. I knew your history. People called you boxing something at the time. They always portrayed it to me. So the funny thing about that was, when they tried to do that, I remember when they were walking down the corridor with everybody, and the only one I saw that was messed up was Ace. I think it was Ace that had a bashed in nose. He was bleeding out of his nose. You didn't have a mark on you. So, you know, it was one of them things, you know, and you know, I just would shake my head at it, because it was such unnecessary, just political BS, you know. Just because you fight back a bit, would push back on TV, would push back on the Boston guys, you know, then they don't want you there anymore.
You know, that's what it was. And Ace wanted to impress them dudes, and it's not really about me, bro. But like I wrote about it in the book, and I said, man, I was out there fighting for my life, right? And I don't want people to think that we talked about this before, but did you know they were going to hit me? Because haven't
No,
asked you that before the interview.
no, I didn't know. I didn't know. At that point, me and Ace, um, we just didn't. I was constantly at odds with Ace over everything. He was one of those guys. I would be in the unit playing cards, whatever, and then someone would come to the door and yell at me, "Hey, Doug, Ace wants you on the yard at 4:30." Every day, every day, it was something else, and I was just tired of it, tired of it. So at the time, he was never going to make me privy to a lot of things he was doing. It just wasn't. We just wasn't, because we just didn't see eye to eye on things at all. So there was times I thought he was going to hit me, but I was there at that time. I was like one of the longest standing white guys on the compound, because most white guys, a year or 2 years, they're not going to make it past that. Something's going to happen. They're going to be involved in something, or they're going to get hit. So at the time I was the longest. So I had a lot of friends. I had a lot of people in my corner. So he knew that if he hit me, there was going to be repercussions from other people. So luckily he never did. So
They did me a favor, man. You know what? They got me a one-way ticket out of there for real, man. I didn't like him, man. I thought he wanted to be the boss all the time, and it was going to be tension, because that's when all the shit was going on with Stevie and Adam stabbing the cop, and he hit me to try to impress them dudes, because he knew them dudes didn't like me, and it had got to the point where I didn't like them. They tried. I mean, there were 4 or 5 dudes, but you know what, man? They did me a favor, bro, and I'm happy that I didn't die there, because it's easy to die in Big Sandy, bro.
Oh, it's so easy, and it can be the simplest thing. You'll see a guy get stabbed 100 times and he lives, and then you see a guy get a slit throat or stabbed in the neck one time and he dies. It's just a roll of the dice. There's no rhyme or reason to who lives or who dies. But yeah, it's how I made it through it all those years. I still don't know. I had an angel somewhere looking over my shoulder, and I was able to make it through all right. And after you left, and then after Stevie and them and Adam stabbed the CO and they were out of there, as time went on, post 2010, post 2011, things calmed down a little bit. And it got easier for me, kind of, I was used to it. I had a say in things at that point. The crazy thing is, I went from being green, super green when I got there, to up until I got my out date last year, I was the shot caller for the independent car. It wasn't something I wanted. It was something that the yard said, and I said I didn't want it, and they said, well, that's why we want you to have it, because there was guys out there politicking to get it, and people were like, well, we don't want them because they want it for their own personal reasons. So then I ended up having to make those decisions, that's an awful burden to have. I didn't like it. I couldn't wait for my out date to get there, because I told them, I said, as soon as I get my out date, I'm done. Don't talk to me about it anymore. Because it's not something I wanted to do, and that's a burden when you have to decide on something like that.
Let me ask you this, Doug. When you're in Big Sandy, we're all there, right? Like you said, there was, about 10, 12 armed guys. There's, I don't know, a couple SAC dudes. Remember Joe Stevens from SAC? Danny, armed Danny.
So oh my God, it was like my job. Every night they would start drinking, and when they drank, they were going to be doing something off the wall, and it fell on me to make sure they didn't kick off a race riot every night, because they tried, so it's funny you mentioned those two names, because they were cellies at the time, and they were a handful, that's for sure. I don't think either of them in good standing, from what I don't understand anymore. So
No, they're both gone.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about. We're going to get back to Ace. Ace gets shot from the tower. They blow his guts out. We'll talk about that in a minute. But do you remember Dinky?
Absolutely, I remember Dinky. He was one of the first shot callers for the ABT that I ever met. I think he was the first shot caller for them on that compound. I remember Dinkley well. At first, I liked Dinky. When I first met him, he seemed okay, but that didn't take long. I was there when the stuff with Brian Ashlock happened, and from what I always understood, Brian Ashlock they about killed Brian. And when I heard, that the story they told was he was hot or whatever.
I talked about him, and I heard him screaming through the vent. But keep going.
Yeah.
Tell the people the story, because you were there. Were you in the same unit as them guys?
No, I was in the unit with the guys that did it.
Yeah, talk about it.
They went all the way across the compound to do it. They went from B side to A side to do that. Strecker told me what they were going to do, and he told me why. Because they were from Texas, and there was an interesting dynamic with Texas guys. So if you're a gang member from Texas and you have state time to go do, you're going to be locked down 23-1 for your entire sentence. So the Texas guys, like them too, that participated in that, they didn't want to go to state prison. They wanted to stay in the feds. So they would tell you openly, I got to catch a body before they ship me back to the state. Because I would ask them, like, why are you doing this? Why? Why do you want to kill somebody? Well, I don't want to go to the state. Something so, it boggles your mind to hear that. So I knew what was about to happen, and it happened. And the funny thing is, they made it out of Brian's unit when they did it. They made it out. I don't know how, but they made it out of the unit. I think the CO was in the corridor or something, and they made it out of the unit. How Brian survived that, I have no clue. It was how he survived. I'll never know. Never know. I mean, that was brutal. And somehow he survived. And then I learned later on, I still don't know to this day what's true and what's not true with them. I've heard it was a bad hit. There was nothing wrong with Brian. I know he was doing a lot of time, at least 20, at least. So I never even found out if it was true or not. It's just one of those things.
What's one of the worst things you've seen at Big Sandy, man?
Yeah, the guy I told you about, the North Carolina guy that was getting stabbed by the GD, that was bad because the places he was hitting them, you could see the blood spraying everywhere. When the COs all ran in the unit, they stopped. You remember Big Silva on the compound, the real big guy? I think he was from out northeast, and he was always the first one in. He loved to tackle people and stuff like that. He ran in, and as he was running towards it, he goes, "Whoa!" Because the blood is spraying everywhere. That was bad. I saw a guy get his throat cut from behind. He was playing cards, and it's another white guy walks up behind him, and he has some sort of ceramic, some sort of weird knife he made, and he just walks up behind him, and he slit his whole throat. So
we've seen some bad things, man.
Yeah, it's things that you shouldn't see normally. You shouldn't get accustomed to that kind of stuff. It's not normal to be, that stuff's okay. But that's what it teaches you. It's like a learned behavior. You learn it. It's like, no, just another day, whatever, no big deal, and now when you get out, you got to learn to readjust, and they put you in a place, and, I have to live with 30 people in one room, which is rough. That you go from sleeping with a knife under your pillow to this, in the blink of an eye.
Did you always keep a knife on you in there?
I didn't want to at first, but there was no option. There was no option because every day you never knew what was going to happen. We had the race riot up in A4. That was before you got there.
That was my unit. I came right after that.
So you just never knew. You just never knew. Stuff.
Do you remember when Jerry Lee in 7 hit Mikey Eck, DWB, stabbed him in the eyes?
I remember that. And Chris York. I actually know Chris's co-defendant really well. And yeah, I remember that. And it's just insanity.
I can tell that it affects you, man. I can see it. And the people watching the video, they're going to be able to see it too, man. How many years did you do in Big Sandy, Doug?
I did about, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Most of 10. And then finally, they gave me a chance at an FCI. So I go to an FCI. I'm there for a couple years. And this is the difference between an FCI and Big Sandy. So I get into a little discussion with a guy, a little heated discussion. Coming from Big Sandy, you can't ever let a guy disrespect you or say anything, even remotely disrespectful. So he kind of raised his voice at me, and so I smack him, open-handed smack. And they said it was an assault, sent me right back to Big Sandy. So I went right back. I went right back, and I was there ever since.
What do you think when you come back to Big Sandy? Do you rub your head like, wow, man?
Yeah. When I was in the hole, and they come by and tell me, because I got 30 days in the hole, and they come by, my case manager come by. I thought I was getting out of the hole, and she walks by and she's looking at her clipboard, and she's like, "Barton." I'm like, "Yeah." She's like, "You're going back to Big Sandy." I'm like, "What? For what?" Like, "You got a 6-point assault." I'm like, "Are you kidding me? A 6-point assault? That's crazy." And even when I did that, when I smacked that guy, he had a cut because he had glasses on and stuff. I lost my cool, and I apologized for that. And, I told the lieutenant at the time, I said, "Man, let that guy out, man. He didn't do nothing. I lost my temper. Just let him out of the hole. Let him out. It's no big deal." And they did. And I took my time in the hole, and then they said, "You're going back to Big Sandy." And in those 2 years, Big Sandy changed a lot. You wouldn't recognize it right now, Chad. I'm telling you that right now.
Let me ask you this. Were you there when Ace was shot?
There when Ace was shot, yeah. I wasn't out on the rec yard when it happened. I was at work. I worked in commissary. But yeah, I was there for that.
Tell the people what I've talked about it before, but talk a little bit about when he gets shot, dude, and the nurse runs out there and she's wiping the dirt off his guts and trying to stick him back in his stomach. He gets shot in the back and it blows his guts out, right?
Yeah, because it happened real close to the gun tower. Ace had a poker table right there under the gun tower, and that's where it started at. A couple of gang members went to stab him, and he got the knife from one of them, and the other one took off, and Ace started stabbing the guy, and when they warned him, he didn't stop, and so they shot him. And he didn't die right there, but he was dead. He was never going to survive. He died just a short time later, but he was dead right there. No coming back from that. And he always said to me that he had 240 years, so he always said that that's what was going to happen. He lived for that. He lived for the chaos. He lived for the, he was going to kill people or get killed. That's what he wanted to do. And we all had to follow his lead, at that time, even though we'd roll our eyes and just like, are you kidding?
So like you were saying, yeah, man, Ace lived to die, man. That was the type of dude that he was. He was a pretty big dude. And the crazy part is this. He had 240 years for robbing banks, stacked 924C sentences. He was an intelligent dude, worked in the law library, but he was a creator of chaos because I think he was so miserable with his time. But had he done the right thing, he could possibly be in the same position that me and you are in right now. I got released with stacked 924Cs based on the changes in the First Step Act. I can guarantee you that if Ace had done the right thing, that he would probably be out today.
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me. He was a smart guy. We did have some conversations where it would come out of him. If you get him alone, away from everybody, where he didn't have to put on a show, he was an intelligent guy. He was a decent guy. He was funny, He had that dumb haircut of his that he called the Aces High. You know, he was a funny guy, but as soon as he got out, you know, around everyone, he had to put on a show, you know, unfortunately. You know, and I hate that it ended like that for him, but I that's the way he always said it was going to happen. So, you know, what are you going to do?
He did always say that. He was on America's Most Wanted and all that stuff. You know the thing though, Doug, like you said, man, you know, I used to say, man, when that happened, I said it couldn't have happened to a nicer guy. And, you know, I really, you know, you hate that it happened for him. And, you know, now that I'm a different person, I guess man, I don't know, man. I don't know. I didn't like the dude, man. I didn't like what they tried to do with me, bro, at all. You know what I mean? I think it was some bullshit they tried, but I did all right, if I say so myself.
You did fine. You did fine. I didn't see a mark on you. I remember that. Oh, I saw Ace's nose. I think it was Ace that had the busted up nose, if I remember. It was Ace or Trago, one of the two.
I think I cut Ace's eye, and Trago was beat up in the face a little bit. But it ain't about me, man. It's about other people, man. It's about changing people's perspective and getting people to think that they don't want to be in that place, Doug. They don't want to be in Big Sandy, do they?
No one wants to be there. And it's crazy. You would meet people that would come in, and for whatever reason, the BOP would put guys in there with violations, with 2-year sentences, 3-year sentences. And I'm like, what are you doing here? Why are you here? And they're like, I don't know. I got a detainer. I got a 7-point detainer. And I'm like, it's wrong. And so on so many levels to put people in that position. This guy's in for a violation, but just because he has a detainer to another place, they give him 7 custody points and put him there and put his life in jeopardy. You know,
I know you're at the halfway house, and I hear the noise in the back. But do you remember Donnie? Do you remember when they beat that cop? I think the cop was from Louisiana. Remember they mercy flighted him out?
It was funny. The guy that knew about that cop was in my unit of Skinner. He got the newspaper. He just happened to get the newspaper from the same area, and says, "Holy cow, this guy's a cop." You know, it's a cop. And from my understanding, from somebody, a CO that worked there, they told him when he came in, "You don't want to go out there. Don't go out there. You don't want to go out there." And that cop was like, basically like, "Screw us. They're not going to do nothing to me." You know? But as soon as they found out, it was like 100 volunteers to get this guy. But he fell into Donnie's unit. So I think that was up in B4. And Donnie and them got him. Got him good. So
I want to ask you about a couple other things before we go, right? Do you remember the guys from Texas? They're out on the yard. They're beating the dude with the padlock. Mm-hmm. It's a black dude and a Mexican beating up another Mexican from Texas, and they shoot the guy that's getting beat with the lock. Do you remember that?
Yeah, I believe his name was MOB, something like that. Yeah, they shot the guy that was getting beat. Yeah, I remember it. You know, I think it was MOB or something like that was his name. But yeah, I remember that. I heard he came out okay after that. So yeah, it's hard to tell people about it that have never been there. You know, people don't understand it. People probably don't believe it. But unless you've been there, that's the only way to understand it.
Let me ask you this, Doug. I can tell that, you know, prison has affected you, man. It's affected all of us. And that's why sometimes I say, man, sometimes the channel's all we got. Do you feel like that affected you, the violence, the things that you've seen?
Absolutely. Like I said, it shouldn't have got so desensitized to me. You know, it's not normal to be desensitized to that stuff. But it did. It became just regular, everyday things that people out here couldn't even fathom seeing. You know, you should go through your life not seeing that. You know, but unfortunately, you know, that's what happened. You know, and I look back on it, and I'm glad I made it. And you know,
That dude ain't dying over there coughing, is he? Holy shit, bro. Anyway, listen, man. Do you think you're gonna make it out here? Be honest with me, man.
Oh, absolutely. I have a lot of people, good people in my corner. I have a great mom, a daughter, a great girlfriend named Amanda. Yeah, I'm gonna make it. I'm gonna make it. It'll be better when I get out of here. It's rough in here. Like I said, I have to go from Big Sandy. Now I live in a dormitory with 26 people. So, you know.
That's all right. You're gonna get out of there, man, and you are gonna make it. Any last words before we close, man? Anything you want to say? A message you want to give to the youngsters?
Yeah, and just don't fall for it, man. Think of your future. There's so much better things out here. So much better things. And just try to stay positive. And I just want to say that I appreciate what you're doing for everybody. And this is a good thing you're doing, man. It's a great thing. Just keep it up. You know, we need more of this stuff so people understand what's going on in there. And hopefully, you know, maybe down the line they'll change some things. You know, who knows?
I think they are, man. I hope people stay on the right side, man. Again, I appreciate you coming on, sharing your stories, sharing your experiences, bro. I know you. Good dude. I want to see you make it, man. I'm going to close the show. Tell people, man, hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, share the video. Make sure you leave a comment. We'll respond with respect. Until tomorrow, Blood on the Razor Wire TV. We're out.